Hello and good evening. I'm just going to find us here before I do anything further. There we go. Let's just make sure we are lovely. Okay, good evening. It is dead on 6:30 and ready for Technique Tuesday in January. I'll just give it a few minutes. Oh, there's Gita watching, until a few more people come on. And then we will do a little bit on binding, making some, it will be binding rather than bias binding, but the same difference. And we will also be doing buttonholes, because how many times do we do a buttonhole? There we go. So good evening, Liz. Hope you're well. It's gone a little bit cold again today. I always talk about the weather, don't I? But the warmer I am, the better I am. And I just am longing for the springtime. But at least we have had the sun today, which was really nice to see. Hello, Maria. Hello, Jan. Hello, Dorothy. And hello, Gita. Yes, so it's been a cutting and packing day, as per usual. Hello, Vanessa. And a little thinking about what's to come. Hello, Marion. Hello, Beverly. And I've been generally keeping myself busy as usual. Hello, Beverly, and hello, Jane. And hello, Michelle. Now, I meant to, no, Sue's not here yet, but the phone went and I was having a nana nap, because some days you just need one. And today was one of those days. Hello, Carol. Lovely little bag today, Carol. Hello, Linda. And hello, Josie. Gosh, we are getting a few people here now. Hello, Leslie. No, it's not getting any warmer, is it? I mean, I must admit, I put the log fire on at 4 o'clock today because it was just getting ridiculous. I thought I need to be warm. So hello, Heather. Hello, Sue. And hello, Pamela. All of you here waiting to see a few buttonholes being made. Hello, Wendy. Wendy says hello to friends. That's all of us here together. So we can have a nice little chat as we go. Hello, Elaine. Hello, Karen. And there's Marilyn watching. And hello, Patricia. And there's Sharon. Hello, Sharon. Hello, Marilyn. I still haven't got round to replying to your message, but at the moment, Northern Ireland is still a no-no with the rest of Europe, as it's been for a little while now. But as soon as things change or I get some more updates, I will get posting again. Hello, Marilyn. Hello, Carol. Hello, Sue. Hello, Kathleen. Hello, Sandra. Hello, Caroline. You thought it was quite mild? Yeah, I didn't think it was too bad this morning, I must admit, but it's gradually got colder. Hello, Vanessa. Hello, Amanda. And going down to school, I thought that's pretty cold. And even when I went outside to take the boys to the car, I put my coat on because it was cold. Hence the putting the, no, I put the fire on before that, hadn't I? I mean, no wonder people get poorly when if they don't put the heating on at all. And I've just come to think, well, whatever it costs, we need to be warm. So, the dinner is on and ready. So we've got about an hour tonight, which I'm sure will be fine. So one of the things I'm going to show you tonight, which, I can't remember who, but somebody asked about when we were doing binding, could I show you how to do binding around an internal corner? So this is what we mean. So here is binding like we do around the edge of a quilt on the squared corners. And this is what the other person was asking about. Could we do a corner, an internal corner? And very similar in technique, but a little bit different, purely because we're not working on the outside of fabric, we're working on the inside. So to get that little mitre in there, I'll show you a little way of doing it. I must admit, it's not the easiest, but it's also not that often that you need to do it, because there's other ways of getting an edge around an internal corner. But I thought I'd show you how to do that. So it's another string to your bow when you're choosing to make particular projects. So let's have a look who else is here. Oh, there's Bev, I can see. I will, Sharon. I've got your bits sitting there, but I can't afford for them to be taken off if there's a customs anywhere here. Good evening, Kim. Yes, not bad day. Thank you very much. And hello, Jennifer. Hello, Jill. No. Surely not. Hello, Marilyn. And hello, Sue. Hello, Jenny. And hello, Tony. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Let me see. I can't be on my personal page. Let me have a look. Because this is not for... Oh, for goodness sake. It does say that, doesn't it? I went into my group. Let me have a look. Sorry, I'm just checking back here. Perhaps, let's see. Let me see. Trisha Ablett there. Trisha Ablett. Oh my goodness. So I know I was live then, which is fine. Let me see. This is worrying. It says so with... Oh, thank you, Caroline. Oh, dear. I am getting... Hello, Patricia. Hello, Alison. Hello, Jane. Hello, Linda and Janet. It says so with... Oh, that's good. I can see it says my name at the top. It says Trisha Ablett is live. But I'm not, because I went into the group to do the live. So, oh dear, it is just very annoying. I still can't get the screen to come the right way round, but there you go. What did I see there? So hello, Margot. Hello, Sue, Shirley and Yvonne. Oh, that's okay then. That's okay. Jolly good. Jolly good. Scared me there. Josie, I haven't got any flesh-coloured material at all. No, I'm sorry about that. Hello, Sue, and Jane, and Susan. Hopes we're all keeping warm. Yeah, and I think we've got storms coming again, haven't we, at the end of the week, which is rapidly approaching. Anyhow, shall we crack on? Shall we do a little bit? I thought what we'd do to start off with, it's on the right page, Tony, thank you. Hello, Barbara. Right, I'm going to go to the ironing board because I'm going to show you how we make binding. Now, let's move us over here. So here we are with our ironing board and binding. So here, oh no, I need to cut that, don't I? Let's pop that out of the way. So all I'm going to do to start off with, I'm going to show you how you use one of these. This is a bias tape maker. Now, it is for making your own bias binding, but you don't have to make bias binding. You can make, just grabbing myself some bias binding. So here I have a reel of bias binding, and bias binding is cut on the cross so that it is stretchy. Whereas the tape I've made looks the same, but it's on the straight of the fabric. Okay, so it's got the raw edges folded to the middle on the back. And we always, for when we're doing quilt binding, we always use straight of grain fabric unless the outer edge is curved. And that is when you would use bias binding. Okay, because you need to, if you want to make your own so that it works to coordinate beautifully with your own fabric in your quilt, this is the type of, there we go, tape maker that you need to use. So there are lots of different sizes. I do have lots of different sizes for my own personal use. Hello, Patricia, and hello, Jenny. I'm going to show you how to use it, whether you use a bias strip of fabric or just a straight strip of fabric. So I'm just going to cut a straight grain piece. So I have already cut now there's the selvage, as you can see. So I'm just going to lay that together and I'm just going to cut. Let's see, that was the straightest bit, I think. I'm just going to cut myself. Now this particular tape maker is a 1 inch. So we need to cut our strip of fabric at 2 inches or just under 2 inches, because half of it is, raw edge to the back on both sides. So if you cut double the width of the strip that you'll want to make, you need to cut, as I say, twice the size for the width that you're going to come out with. Now, I haven't brought it up here today, but I do have an electric tape maker so that it just feeds itself through and you don't have to do anything. But not everybody has one of those or has around £100 to spend on one. So we can just use these with your basic iron. So as I say, first of all, I'm going to cut myself a 2 inch strip of fabric. So let's just put the ruler on there. I'm just going to do it fractionally less so that it folds around really easily. Okay, so there is my strip of fabric. As you see, there isn't any stretch in there. I think what I ought to just show you, I'm seeing if I've got a little bit of fabric spare so that I can cut a bias strip. Let's pop the iron on and I'll just show you what the difference is. This is only going to be a small piece. So if you would do this exactly the same if you were using if you've got a larger piece of fabric. So let me just cut this off here. Right. So we know that piece of fabric is, well, it's rectangular, but let's say square. When we cut our strips like I've just done, we cut our pieces in that direction. When we do it on the bias, we cut across the diagonal at 45 degrees. So on your ruler, there are lines. If you can just see there's a 45 degree line there. So I'm just going to bring it in a little bit closer so that you can see. Pop that back there. And I'm going to put the fabric down here and I'm going to line up that 45 degree line. There we go. Let's pop it that way around. So I'm lining up the 45, which is there, on the edge. Gosh, I can't see it. There it is. It's because it's red, as is my fabric. Okay, so my 45 degree line is just there. Whoops. There we go. There is my 45. My 45 degree line is along here. There is my cutting edge. So what I'm going to do is with my line there, I'm going to cut along there. Now, that is the wrong way round for me. So now that I've got my stretchy edge there, I'm going to lay that down on here, the other way round, so that I can now cut myself 2 inch wide strips. So just as you would on a straight grain fabric, I'll put my 2 inch line just there and I'll cut myself, whoops, that went off a bit, but never mind. So I've cut myself a 2 inch strip, and then all you would keep doing with a bigger piece of fabric, you would just keep cut, and keep moving across to give yourself lots of pieces of 2 inch increments of stretchy bias fabric. So if I just move that out of the way, now I will put this, I'll do this, whoops, here we are. I'll do this bit in a moment. Let's just take that back just a little bit. And what we'll do is we will use our piece here first of all. We'll use our straight grain piece. So you can see there's minimal stretch there, where with this one, there's a lot of stretch. So this is what we would do with our tape maker. First of all, I'm going to cut myself at an angle because we are going to feed. Where are we going to feed? We are going to feed, see that little hole on the back? If we feed our fabric through, I'll just hold that a little bit and I'll get my seam ripper, whoops, and just grab hold of that end and you just push it through until you see the bit come out at the tip there. Did you get what? Oh, that's daughter. Okay, so then you can see that there, and it's already folding that fabric around. So when you've got your first little bit out, you can hold that down like that. Let's just put it that way on there. Hold that down so that those two little points are together, and pop your iron down on it so that the raw edges meet. And I like to have my iron at the side, and then you grab hold of your tape maker. Let's just see what might be easier there. So I'm going to grab hold of this and I'm going to start pulling it. And if you have your iron quite close, you can iron down, and as you pull it, you can move your iron towards the tape maker. And that is giving me the tape just like your bias, except, and you want this to feed through straight to give you the best results. So I'm just holding on to that little piece at the end there and pulling that and then pressing with the iron and there. So then we'll take that back a little bit further and we'll start again. So just grab hold and pull and just do a couple of inches at a time. And you can see, as I say, you can see those two raw edges coming together, and you just keep pressing until you come to the end of your strip. So pull it and press, pull it and press. Mind that the iron doesn't steam and scorch and burn you. And then when you come to that very end bit, you can just hold that together because obviously there's no binder there to do that. So making your bias tape is as easy as that. Oh, hello, Judith and Christine. Don't worry, don't worry. So that is how you make your tape, your bias binding or your tape that's 1 inch wide, 1 inch wide, and you just put it on just like you would any other tape. So having done that, we'll do this little bit here. And so this one is the bias, no different. So again, we're just going to feed that in and just, it's got a point on the end there. Let's put this other end in. And as soon as you can see the fabric in that little slot, just feed it through with a pin or as I'm doing here. And you'll see on the other side, it starts to pull the pieces together. So you do want that to be, you can see the fabric going around that curve. So we'll pop that down here. And I'm going to put my iron down on the piece, pull it, press, press, press. So you can see there is no difference whatsoever, just that end bit. So I've still got my bias tape, except it's stretchy, just the same as my 1 inch tape. Hello, Sonia. So that is how you use one of these. And you can get 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, you can get 1.5 inches, you can get 2 inch, so they'll be bigger. But you do need to cut your strips, whether it be bias or whether it be straight grain, you need to cut your strips twice as wide as your finished tape. So that is simple. That is straightforward. Now, let's keep that on. So let me just, how do I cut myself? So let's do a little bit of putting the tape on the, here we are. So for this one, I'm not using the tape, the bias tape maker, but I'm just going to press the sides. This is a strip, I was trying to get the 1/4 inch seam allowance. So this is a strip where I've got the wrong side facing up, and I'm going to press over to the other side about 1/4 inch. So I'm just pulling that over, watching I don't burn my fingers, because this iron spurts the steam out the side. Okay, so I've pressed that, you can see I've pressed that over, a little bit more than 1/4 inch there, and then I'll press the other one over. Now they're not meeting in the middle. Oh, yes, that is hot. Okay, I might turn that steam off. That's it, turn the steam off and then I won't get burned. So again, I'm just pressing into the other side. If I'd got ready-made bias binding, I wouldn't have to do this, but I'm just pressing that just so that I've got a tape or a bit of what looked like bias binding, but it's a tape that is about, I've cut it 1.5, so it's about 3/4 inch wide. Okay. So we'll turn that off. So there I have my tape, which I've just pressed the raw edges to the other side. So now we can go to our, I wonder if I've got enough there. I did with the other one. Okay, so let's go back to the machine and I'll show you, let's take that out of the way, and I'll show you how, that's true, Lynn. Yes, there are little gadgets, aren't there, where you can put pins and thread it through. But it is much easier to use a specific or a designated tape maker. So what I'm going to show you is how to do this here. So I've got, let's put shit out of the way. Let's put my buttonholes there. Right, so I've got another bit of fabric here. There is actually wadding on the back, but that's doesn't make any difference at all. And I'm just going to just trim that down a bit because I don't want it to be too long. There we are. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to put binding around here. But first of all, let's just see. That will go around there. That's it. Okay. First of all, so I'm just going to cut this little bit in half so that I can demonstrate to you, first of all, as we know, how we go round an outside corner. So I'm just going to open the tape. So this, when we do our binding of our quilts, I quite often, or I mostly use a piece of fabric that's folded in two. So there's a fold at one side and the two raw edges on the other side. If you were going to use just one single layer of fabric and fold the edges in, at this point I would open it out. So I'm just going to open out and line up that edge. Now I'm going to then stitch down. I'm just drawing that in. So that's my crease line. So I'm going to stitch down. Let's just come in a little bit closer. Okay. So I'm going to stitch down this crease line. What I might do, I might just put a clip on here. Let's just put that just there so that I can see. Let's put a clip on here just to hold it, and then I can show you better. So I've lined up the raw edge of the tape with the fabric, and then just like we do with our quilt binding, I'm going to stop 1/4 of an inch from the end, and then I'm going to stitch into that corner. So you can see just there, I'm going to stitch along that fold line and then stitch off to the corner. So we'll do that first of all. So I haven't got 1/4 of an inch foot on, I've just got my standard foot, and I'm stitching on that drawn line. So we'll keep stitching, and then when I get to that mark, one more, and then I'm going to pivot so that I stitch across to that diagonal and cut that off. Okay, so you can perhaps see just there, I've stitched down here and off at an angle. So then I'm going to, no, I'm not. I'm going to fold this just like we do with our quilt binding to the right. This is to my right, and I'm making sure that my tape is in line, so it's going as if it was a continuous line along there. I can always just nail press that. That's going to be where our mitre is, and then I'm going to pull it over to the left. Okay, and I'm going to fold that edge on this edge that we've just stitched, and then I'm going to carry on stitching. I'll put a little clip stitching from this edge in that fold again, but I'm going to line that up down there with that edge and stitch along there. So I'll take that clip off and I'll look to see where, so I'm going right from the very edge and I'm stitching in the fold of what would be your bias binding or your tape there. So you're probably very, very familiar with this anyway. So now I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to turn it to the back, and we will just, this piece that is already folded, we will refold it and fold it over that edge. And I'll put a little clip on there, and we're going to do the same on this edge. Refold your bias tape and bring that over to that side. So let's put a little clip there as well just to hold it. And then when we get into the corner, what I'm trying to do is line up that folded edge with my stitching from when we stitched the first side. So I'm just pulling that over, and then when we get to this bottom point, just like we do with a quilt, fold that down and then bring that back up to give me, let me just get my, to give me a mitre. So we'll fold that down there, fold that other side up to give me a nice, if I were doing a proper quilt, it would look a lot neater than this, but we've just got a little bit. So I fold that down and then bring that up like that. I might put a pin in there just to hold that, to give me a nice mitered point. Okay, but you can see, and what I'm doing, because I'm going to, I mean, this would be better hand stitched along here to get a perfect side on each side, a perfect edge on each side. But I'm going to stitch from this side. So if I line up that very edge of the fold with the stitching from the previous round, you can see it here, then hopefully, and I'll stitch just close here, hopefully I'll get a nice stitch on the top of the binding on the other side. So we'll just pop this back under, and let's see, I'll start stitching down. So I'm trying to keep myself a nice steady line, and you could use the an awl or a stiletto. So I'm just stitching down there. So I can see that's coming away a little bit, so I'm pulling that over to the stitching. And this is just a case of trying to get it to be very, very straight on the other side. Okay, so as soon as I am into, that's it, I'm into that mitre, and then I'm going to pivot round and come out of there. I'll take that little clip off and carry on stitching up here, and watching that, as I say, that fold is on that line so that we can get the neatest finish. So let's have a look. Oh, not bad at all. Let's just clip those little bits of thread off. So there we have the front. There we have the front, and you see the stitching has stayed practically even there. And we've also got a nice back to it as well. So that is our usual, probably silly, but why would you want tape on the inside? I know. Well, no, somebody asked. They'd got a project that they were doing where they'd got, whoops, here we are, where they'd got this internal angle. So I thought, a little bit like if you've got a scalloped edge quilt, it always goes into that angle there. It goes into an internal angle. So, you know, it could be useful. But at this point in time, I probably wouldn't want to use this technique any more than I would have to, because it isn't the easiest, but we must prove the point that it is possible. Now, oh no, I have got a chocolate liner in here. What I want to do is show you where I'm going to stitch. So, please let that one be it. What is that? That's my, I saw it in here. So please make yourself visible. I know a lot of you have bought a Checo liner. I did sell them all, so I haven't got any more. And it's a silver marker. Goodness, I saw it there. Right, let me just have a look. Sorry, you're just having a look at my, in here. Oh, that's just fall after them. Oh, there it is. I see it. That is what I want. My Checo liner. Move that back. Pick up whatever else I've dropped on the floor and pop that back in. Right, so this is what I was wanting, my little Checo liner. Okay, so where we're going to stitch, we are going to stitch, let me do here, so it will be 1/4 of an inch in. So I'm going to stitch along there and along here. Now what we need to do is just mark our 1/4 of an inch, because we're going to stop stitch. So now that you can see that, oops, let's go along there, and then I put a line there. That's better, just so that you can see. Let's go out a little bit there. So can you see I have drawn in here, and also I've done a little diagonal line into the corner there, and which we need to cut that. So you can cut it after we've done a little bit of stitching, but I think that it will be far easier to just clip into there. Can you see I've clipped? So I've clipped into that point, and that is going to make all the difference when we do this particular technique. So this is what we're going to do. Okay, so we're doing that internal corner. So, and I've just drawn a line. You don't need to draw that, but you need to go 1/4 of an inch further. So if you draw your lines, you can then cut that diagonal line there. So what we're going to do, you're struggling to find a sewing machine cover with a cutout piece that goes over the extension table. Oh, okay, Sue. Yes, I know what you mean. Do you know what I would be tempted to do? I'd be tempted to round so that you've got an oval cut out rather than a rectangular one. But, yes, I see exactly what you mean. Or the other thing I would do, rather than binding it, I would make a lining so that you could turn the lining through, just like when we do a internal zipped pocket, where we make that aperture, the envelope pocket. That's what I would do, so that the lining went through the hole, and then all of the outer edge of that aperture is already nice and clean, neat. But there will always be a time when this needs to be done. So I've got my tape again, and I'm going to place it on that edge, on this first edge here. And I'll put a clip here. Now I'll also mark on here where I'm going to stop stitching. So where that point is, where I've cut into, I'm going to mark that as well. So I think that is near enough. So I put a little spot on where I'm going to stop stitching. So here we go. And it may not be the absolute neatest, but you'll get the idea of what we need to do. So I am stitching down. Oh, I'm actually marking that crease line so it's easy to see. Okay, so let's go down here. So I'm going down, and I'm going down to that dot. There we are, I'm roughly there. Now you can lift this up just to see. That's it. Oh no, you won't be able to see under. But here, there is that little snip. So what we're going to do now, at the minute, it's still at a right angle. So we're going to pull this to the side. Okay, so we're pulling that so that it's straight. Okay, let me turn it like that. So I've just come down here and down here. So what we're going to do is pull this. I've got a little fold here, but I'm folding that out of the way. And we want to pull this straight. So a bit like with an overlocker. So I've pulled that, so I've got a straight edge now. And I'm going to put my presser foot down. I didn't really want to take it up, but let's put my presser foot down again. So I'm lining up that raw edge here, and I'm going to take that down, and I'm going to carry on stitching all the way down here. And when I take it off, you'll see what has happened. So we stitched like that. Whoops, we stitched like that. But when it springs back to shape, we still have our square, our internal square. So now what we're going to do, similar to before, is fold that to the other side. So what we need to do first, though, is fold that down here and then fold that back. So we have got our mitre. You can see that mitre there. So once we have our mitre, flip it over, and again, we will push that over to the other side. Get my pin, I'll get my binding clips in a minute. And similarly on this side here, fold that over, and we'll get the clip here to hold it. And then down here, what we do is just push that down so that we can get, so we've got the, we've got this excess piece here. So we're going to push that down so that it will give us the mitre on this side as well. So what I was doing, I'll just push my seam ripper into that little pleat so that it pulls it out. Put a pin in there now. Okay. And then we have our mitre on that side, and we have our mitre on that side. And now with the same thinking, I'm going to make sure, let's go this way, if you can see my stitching under there, it's hard to see, I should have done another colour. I'm lining the edge here with that binding. And I'm going to sew from this side because it's harder to get this staying in the right place than it is on this side, because this is anchored with stitching. This one is anchored with stitching. So we'll sew from the wrong side. So again, I'm just looking to where my previous stitching was. Okay, and we will stitch down there, and I'm looking along there, and this is just for neatness. Right, so I'm watching this pin because I don't want that pin to be in the way, but we want our, there we are. So I've just come down there. I've anchored that. Let's just take that out. I've anchored that mitre on the other side. And now I'm looking at where my stitching is from the previous row. And we're stitching along there as well. I don't expect this to be perfect, but you'll get the idea. So that is our reverse. And there is our front. So yes, I've missed a little bit of stitching there, but that's how we get our internal. Okay, that's our internal edge. Okay, it is quite neat. Yeah. Now, as it must have been Sue that said about it, it's not every day that you are going to want to need that, but now you know. You can always come back to this little video and just look at it again, because it's not our bog standard. It's not the normal, is it? And it's probably the first time you've ever seen it done like that. Yeah. Thank you, Isabel. So I'm glad you enjoyed that. I don't like anything to beat me. If I've not done it before, I will make sure I find out or learn how to do it. But that's the way. That is how you do those. So, right, shall we now go on to buttonholes? So, buttonholes, I have a few here. So let's have a look. So have a look at your machine, your own personal sewing machine, to see what type of buttonholes your machine will do. So I've been having a play with lots of different buttonholes. And also I've I've altered some of the settings just to see. Now let me have a look. Did I do? Oh, here, let's have a look at this one in particular. So I have got three buttonholes, all done with the same button in the foot. I'll show you the foot in a minute. But this is how I was having just a little play, because I altered the length. Now, quite often, a lot of machines these days, and I'm sure yours may be able to do it, you can alter the length of your stitch and you can alter the width of your stitch. So when we're coming, what I was looking at, seeing what difference there was, is the edge of your buttonhole is a zigzag stitch, and it becomes a satin stitch because it is close together. So a satin stitch can be the wider apart these stitches are, the more it will look like just a zigzag. But the closer they get together, it will look more like a satin stitch. But there's satin stitch that is closer sometimes than others. So the standard setting when you just go to a certain buttonhole was set for me at 5. And then when I altered it down, so that is my, that's my 5. Oh, I know what these were. These were altering that. Yes, this was altering the width. So I didn't know that the width would matter, but the width is across your buttonhole. So if you want, it will give you the same stitching, but you can see there's a bigger gap between your two rows on that one. So that was the widest one. That was 5. This one was 4. So it got slightly narrower gap in the middle. And this one was 3. So you cut down the middle of your buttonholes. But the other thing I was looking at, that's just another one there, is, there are different ones there. On this piece, and I'll just show you in a moment, what I did was I altered the length of the stitch. So the length, I think, on most of them starts off at either 4 or 3. And if you change it down, these zigzags get closer together. So this one was the closest together. Let's go a little bit closer. And you can see that those stitches, so compared with this one here, they are a lot more open than when I changed the length setting down to, I think it was 2 was the lowest I could do. And similarly here, this one was closer than this one. There's not that much difference, but if you're fussy about your buttonholes, have a little play first of all, rather than just go straight into doing that buttonhole down the front of your coat or on your bag flap and then wish you'd done it differently. So, as I say, there's differences, just slight differences by changing the width setting or the length setting, and the width changes the width of the whole buttonhole. So that one is wider than that one is wider than that one. Whereas with changing the length, your satin stitches down these lengths become closer together. And actually that one is pretty neat, I think. Okay, so let's have a look. Let me show, while I have this here, what I'll show you how to do. Now, cutting your buttonhole. You can get, and I don't possess one, but you can get like a chisel, but it is sharp, and you place the chisel end on, you have a cutting mat underneath, you place your buttonhole on the top, and you give a little hammer to cut in that recess. Now, what I prefer to do, I have heard, I think even on the TV or somewhere, that you put a pin at one end, because the last thing you want to do when you're cutting in there is to cut through this bar tack at the end. However, I don't like to do that, because if your seam ripper goes too far, oh, it was on the Great British Sewing Bee, wasn't it? That's right. And he still went straight past the pin. What that pin is going to do, it is going to blunt the cutting edge inside your seam ripper. So if you always start at the end, which is furthest away from you, the direction you're cutting, and you poke it in there, okay, and then I'm only going to actually go, and you go slowly, but I'm only going to go to about halfway. So I'm just holding that and just pressing. Okay, so I've only gone to halfway, even, you know, not even halfway if you don't want to. And then turn it around and put the point of your seam ripper in the opposite bar tack, or just after it. And I've got 4 layers of fabric here. And then when you push your seam ripper down, anyway, so I have no problem with cutting there. And then the other thing, depending on that gap in the middle, I always fray these bits as much as I can, those inside edges, so that, there we go, just fray that, snip away those threads, and then you've got a super duper neat buttonhole. And in use, you're not going to get any more fraying. The worst thing that could happen is you're out wearing your coat, you undo your buttonhole, and there's all these frayed bits around the edges. So if you fray it away before you've finished, then it's not going to fray anymore. So just keep pulling. You're not going to make your buttonhole weak or anything like that, but that is going to stay nice and neat for a long, long time. Okay, so that's those 2 little bits that I was going to tell you about. Now let's have a look at our, that's all right, Kathleen. Right, so a lot of buttonhole feet will be like this one. When I'm downstairs on the dukey, it's a lot bigger, but you've got this little bar here, which needs, that's there for a reason, and that's where a little pull that comes down from the machine needs to fit against. And then this bit here opens up, there we go, so that you can fit your button in there. And then the buttonhole that's made will be the exact size for your button. So I've got a button here, and so you want to pull that out, pop your button in, just go a little bit further. It won't take any more than about an inch, inch and a half button. Pop it in at that end, and then push it down so that that's kept in there. It's not going to fall out anywhere. So your button's in there, and it means that the buttonhole that's going to be made will be the exact fit for that button. Now, some don't, some machines won't have that little bit to put your button in, but all you need to do then is to mark your fabric and stop when you get to, I'll do one of those in a minute as well. So let's just see. Some of you will have a manual machine with a dial, and for your buttonhole, you will probably, it will say A, B and C and D, or A and D. No, it probably says A and D and a B and a C. Now the A and D are, looking here, those, the A and D setting will give you your bar tacks. The B will be one side and the C will be the other. So when you have your dial on A, you just let it go across here, say 4, 5, 6 times. Then you turn the dial to A and it will stitch up one side. And then you'll either turn it back, we'll turn it back to A again, which will also be called D, and it will go backwards and forwards at the top. And then you'll turn it on to C and it will come back down the other side. So, as I say, if you haven't got, let me get another bit of fabric here. If you haven't got a, so I'm just going to fold that into 4. If you haven't got an attachment that puts a buttonhole, put a button in, what you can do is measure the length that you need your button to be, or your buttonhole to be. So I would make, let's see, right, I would make a line, and I would use water soluble or air erasable mark for the length of the buttonhole that you need. And you will look at this and you will start, we'll put it under your foot and you will start to stitch. Now, the reason I also say practice first of all, some machines, when you're forming a buttonhole, the stitching will come forward. This one, it goes backwards. So the stitching will start here and go back up here. Some will, you need to start here and it comes forward. So if you're doing buttonholes down the front of a garment, you need to know, because if that is the edge of your garment, you don't want to start your buttonhole and it goes over the edge. So you will know that you need to, if that's the edge of your garment, you know you need to start here because it's going to stitch this way. So have a little practice first of all. So also when you're using fabric, you can see I've folded that. So I've got 4 layers. If you're only stitching into one layer, I would put some interfacing underneath, either some medium weight interfacing, the papery type one, or G700. And more often than not, you will have 2 pieces of fabric, but to have some interfacing in between as well will give you a much better buttonhole stitch out. So let me first of all, you do need to pop your foot, your standard foot off and put your buttonhole foot on. So let's just have a look here. So mine are clip on. So I'm going to, having a look at this, there's that little bar just there, and you want the shank here to fit over that bar and pop it down. Now the other thing, it's hard to show at the side here, but there is a little lever. Whoops, I'll have to pull it here. There's a little lever. This is to the left. So can you see this here? No, you can't. Let me just see. Nope. No, it's hard to show. But what I would do, I would feel up here, and there's a little lever. I've pulled it down here. There's a lever that pulls down, and what it is doing, here it is here, it is resting against that little metal bit. Now, you might just have a lump that comes out, but it rests against there, and then that's how it knows when to start and stop. Now, the other thing I need to do is pop it on a buttonhole setting. Otherwise, this is not going to work. Why is my red light on? Let's have a look. That's on green. Oh, that's better. Oh, it was in the wrong place. That's it. So I've put that. There we go. That's better. Right, so I'm going to put myself a buttonhole on here. And no, it's not that bit of fabric. So let me find another piece. I wanted a dark piece. Oh, there's a little bit of black would be good, wouldn't it? Oh, actually, a bit of black here. And just so that you can see nice and easily as to what we are going to stitch. So I'm just cutting this. Right. So here I have my black fabric. I'm going to fold it in two. It feels a little bit thicker. So I'm going to lift the presser foot and I'm going to start. I shall press. I'll put my foot down. Whoops. And so that you can watch the... Now, why am I doing that? Okay. There we go. Right, I'm going to put this just there. There we go. So, I'm going to just put my foot down and hopefully you will see this work. So it's doing the bar tack, or one little tack first of all. It's stitching away from me and then it's coming back down. This is just a little straight stitch that's coming back down. Now it's going to zigzag. So it's zigzagging over those two straight lines. And it's just quite nice to watch that stitching. And then it's coming back down the other side. And it's doing the bar tack at the bottom. And then it's zigzagging. So I'm going up the right-hand side now where it's just zigzagging. Up to the top, and then it's bar tacking backwards and forwards. And then it's stopping. So I'll lift the foot. And that's just a little bit of thread at the beginning there. We'll just trim that off. So that is my buttonhole, which is not bad, but you can see the zigzags all the way down here. So I'm going to put it back under again, but this time I'm going to do it next to it just to see if you can see a difference. This time I'm changing the length of the stitch down to 0.2. So it's going to do exactly the same as before in that it's doing... Now what I like to do here, that little bit of thread, I like to trim off. There, so I've trimmed that off before it goes any further. So it's done that one side of straight stitching, coming back down, and then it's going to go do the zigzag. Now hopefully it's going to show that the zigzag is closer together and looks that much better. Oh, that's typical. I've run out of thread. The bobbin thread has run out. Right, let's just go back in there. We'll just start it again. Oh, I must have been very naughty and I put more thread on that same bobbin. Let me just thread that. You know you can't, you don't want anything to go smoothly. There's always got to be something, hasn't there? Okay, let's start again. So as soon as I took my, I'm going to cut that bit of thread again. As soon as I lift that up, it starts from the beginning. So it's not, oh, that bit of thread, that's it. There we are. So don't take your presser foot up if you've got an electronic machine before it's finished, otherwise it will start right from the beginning again. And sometimes it's quite difficult to line it back up. So let's see, it's just going up with the zigzag, and as I say, closer together, zigzag. So that's going up to the top, coming back down the other side, bar tack at the bottom, And just going up the other side now. And I think sometimes it's better to do it slower rather than quicker. Okay. Right. So let's just clip that little bit off there. So now you can see the difference. This one is where I changed. I can see close up, but I don't know whether you can as much. So this was just the standard. Click on the buttonhole I want. Whereas this one, as I say, I can see myself. That one is wider. The zigzags are further apart than on here. But that's quite a nice buttonhole. Now, the other things you can do, we can have a rounded end buttonhole as well. So I'm just going to move it a little bit further up. Let's just have a look. Which one shall we do? Let's do that one. Right, so this time, oh, I've got another bit of thread. And you can see why I want to clip that thread off. So it does the same. It just started slightly further around because one of the ends is going to be rounded as opposed to a straight buttonhole like I've done there. So yes, that's just rounding an end. So this is like where you'd put a buttonhole in a man's jacket where a buttonhole would go. You know, a floral buttonhole. And I'm just going to shift that over there before I show you and do another one. And this time, again, I'm going to take... Now, this one just goes down to 0.3. Oh, I'm not going to show you that because I've run out of thread again. Totally run out of thread there. Okay. So that's just... Yeah. Oh, perhaps it didn't. No, it was perhaps to do the... Yes, it was. It had run out. Let me just... Very, very, very naughty in... Oh, yes. I think we might just have enough on there. You see, I'm not winning at bobbin chicken at all. So let's start just there. Right, let's see what we can do here. Let's see if we can grab that bit of thread and just clip that off. There we are. That's it. Carry on stitching. There we go. I think by doing that, I actually made it worse, but I think somebody's telling me something here. Right, what you can see is it's run out again. Okay, so you can just see the thickness. The moral of this story is to make sure that your bobbin is full. There we go. So what I've got here is just to show you the difference in, and I think you can probably see that one even better, that the zigzags are further apart than they are just there. Oh my goodness. How can it happen? Okay. How can it happen so much? Right, let's just go. So, was there anything that you needed to ask from there? Because, as I say, these are the ones I've done with my running out thread. But you can see here, I think it's this one. Yeah, this one here is just the standard. And you can actually see the zigzags. Whereas this one here, I've done closer together and similar there. This one is the standard. And this one here, I've taken it down. It went from 0.5 to 0.3 for the stitch length, and it brings them closer together. I am a tonic, am I? Oh, Make sure you've got a full bobbin, if not two. Oh, I don't know. It's a little bit like, before I go, I'll just say I did put a little post up saying I was really quite chuffed because I was watching Stuart Hillard, who I rate. I give absolute respect to Stuart Hillard. And to hear him saying he was actually doing a, can I show how to wind a bobbin? I will show that another evening, Patricia, definitely, but I always put the thread through that little hole in the bobbin. So just going back to Stuart, he was making flying geese. Now he did show exactly how I did in the stars and geese quilt that we had we had at the weekend. But then he chose another method, doing it as if it was coming out of my mouth. Now I thought that was really good. That two people are reading from the same hymn sheet, if you like. So everybody is being taught in a similar way. And I think that's really, really good. Okay. So, yeah, it's very, very similar. So which of these is considered a stretch buttonhole? I haven't really heard of a stretch buttonhole. A button doesn't change its size. So if you're doing a buttonhole on stretch fabric, I wouldn't want the buttonhole to stretch. I'll see what, if you, I'll tell you what I probably would do. I would stick with the standard setting. Let me just see. Oh, right. So a buttonhole will stay, you don't want it to stretch. If you're stitching a buttonhole on stretch fabric, I wouldn't reduce the stitch length. So where I have done the stitching that's closer together, that will look fine on a non-stretch fabric, a woven fabric, no stretch. But I wouldn't do that on a stretch fabric because you'd get a wavy buttonhole. If you need to do anything, again, on a practice piece of that fabric, or if it's a ready-made garment, I would try and do it in a seam allowance or a hem just to try it out. But if anything, I would increase so that the zigzag was even more, it showed a lot more, so that, yeah, I definitely don't decrease the stitch length and make it closer together, because that would make a ripply buttonhole on stretch fabric. But I'm sure a buttonhole will always want to be rigid. It would want to stay non-stretch. So there was something else I did think. Oh yes, the other thing is on a garment. Right, so let's say this is your garment. Right, there's the edge of my garment. I would always have, I would have my buttonholes, and not that everyone does, but if you have on a coat, I would have my buttonholes coming perpendicular to the edge, so that when your button is put in there, let me put a button. Right, I'm just going to undo that buttonhole, or cut the buttonhole. Can't remember whether I had, yes, I think I must have, yes, I did it with that button in, didn't I? Let's get my button out just to prove. There's my button, fits through there nicely. So if your button is on there, okay, and I would have the buttonhole going horizontal so that it could actually move across like this. If you had this as vertical buttonhole down the front of a top, if you grow a little bit bigger than the size of your garment, especially sort of over the bust area or tummy area, what will happen when the fabrics pull, it will pull the buttonhole open, okay? As opposed to if your buttonhole is horizontal, it can actually slide out a bit because the button will stay where it is, but you've got that that movement within there that you'll be able to slide the buttonhole across. Here, all you'll get is a pull. Okay, just reminded me of that. Okay. If doing with outer foot and you drew the line, do you have to lay the button on the fabric to know? Yeah, absolutely. So with I just guessed it there, but what I would do for that particular button, I would do it a little bit longer than that. I would give probably 1/4 of an inch longer than the diameter of the button. Absolutely. And then what I would do as well, if you don't cut right up to the bar tack, so here's your bar tack, if you only pop your seam ripper in just below the end and start cutting down, and then try it out, because it doesn't matter if there's still a little bit of the fabric uncut in your buttonhole, and then if it's slightly too big, rather than cut the whole thing and then think, oh, it's a bit of a floppy buttonhole, you can always cut it a little bit more if your button doesn't go through very easily. Okay. Thank you, Tony. Oh, you started your stars and geese. Fantastic. Okay. It's all right. I'm going now. Okay. Didn't know if there was a particular one, so just make it slightly looser and horizontal would help. No, you don't want ripples. Absolutely don't want ripples. Yeah. So I agree with what I've said. Either just use the standard setting or increase the stitch length so that your zigzags are just slightly further apart, but definitely not decreasing the stitch length so that you get a more solid buttonhole. I can see it in my mind rippling now. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. I can hear Martin rustling around. I should be back on Thursday with a couple of Trisha's treat boxes. And then on Friday, we've got a different, I always like to do different. Okay, Patricia, thank you. A different hexagon. It can either be, well, it can start off as one bit, as just a centre, or I'm going to have 3 made and we'll make it into a runner. And so much time, not enough time to get it all done, but I shall. Okay, Sonia's going to go back to the beginning and watch. Lovely. So have you seen my email, Sonia? I've actually responded to you and I've got your bits ready for you. So thank you very much, everybody. It's been lovely having your company. I hope that's just at least given you one little thing. You may have known all of that, which I would quite expect some of you to. But if you've just taken one little thing away from it tonight, that is fantastic. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you on Thursday. Bye for now.